We're going to make the same game from RPG Maker to Godot. Can you tell which is which? So I've recently stepped out of my RPG Maker comfort zone and started making a game in Godot. And a lot of people have asked me, is it easy to transition from RPG Maker to Godot? And do you need to know how to code? And my answers are, I think so, and also yes. RPG Maker is a great first step because it teaches you programming logic and how to break down a mechanic into its individual parts without having to code, though bonus points if you did teach yourself a little JavaScript. Godot, meanwhile, is a node-based approach to developing, and while you do need to know a coding language, usually GD script, it's actually pretty intuitive and easy to pick up. Today, I'm going to show you how to make the same game in Godot and in RPG Maker so you can see how they are similar and how they are different. And just as a quick disclaimer, I am still a beginner in Godot. Don't use me as a teacher. Don't ask me any questions because I will not know the answer. This video is just to compare from an RPG Maker's perspective if you're interested in trying out Godot. Let's start in RPG Maker. If we go down to System 2, we can see that our screen width and screen height are 816 by 624. We're going to go ahead and use this default resolution and put it into Godot. When you open up Godot, you're going to be greeted with a 3D scene. Do not worry about that. We are going to switch over to 2D over here. To change the resolution, we'll go to Project Settings, Window, and then we'll change the viewport width and height to 816 by 624 and close. If you zoom out, you can see that now we've got this blue line that shows what our resolution is. Let's go back to RPG Maker and we're going to make our map. So to do that, I'll right-click our game and select New. Tile set is going to be outside, and I can go ahead and name this as minigame. We're going to keep the width and the height as default for now, and press OK. Let's find our tile set and make a quick map for our minigame. Now, I was thinking our character could be in a valley of some kind, with two cliffs on either side, and he's standing on some grass. And there's going to be boulders that are falling down on him from the top. In fact, if we go to edit and add a nice little parallax, Mountains 3, makes it look a little nicer. Now we're going to make this same map in Godot. We first have to make our scene, similar to how we made a map here. We're going to click 2D scene over on the left. And I'm going to rename this scene to Mountains Minigame, or Mountain minigame. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Now, our tile map is not all ready to go, like in RPG Maker. We're gonna have to import it and set it ourselves. So I actually just grabbed the same tiles that we used in RPG Maker. I just cropped it and saved it somewhere else. And in Godot, what we can do is right-click in this file system, make a new folder, and we're gonna call it Assets. And you can now either go into your Godot folder on your computer, or you can just drag in the asset that we're going to use. So in this case, I'm going to drag in our tile set. You can see that here. Just like in RPG Maker, it's going to be organized in its own assets or pictures folder. Now we have to add a tile map layer to the scene. So to do that, we're going to click our scene and press the plus button and type in tile map layer. Now, how do I know to use tile map layer? I followed a tutorial and I learned about it. So we'll click create. And over here, you can see that tile set is empty. Let's create a new tile set. Click that. And under tile size, we're going to change it to 48 by 48. Then at the bottom here, we can go to tile set and drag our cliffs into tile sources. It's going to ask if you'd like to automatically create tiles from this. And as long as you set the tile size over here correctly, then you can go ahead and click yes. So now, just like in RPG Maker, we've got our tiles right here. Now in RPG Maker, if you go to tile sets, you can change the passage settings, which is basically just collision settings. You can do that in Godot by going to physics layer over here, adding an element, and then selecting the collision layer and the collision mask. Collision layer is what layer the collision is going to be on, and collision mask is what that collision is looking for. For this tutorial, you don't really need to know this. in too much detail, but again, to know that you were supposed to go into physics layer and add a new physics layer, you learn that by following tutorials and making different kinds of games. So don't be intimidated. You'll figure it out. Anyway, now we go to paint, select a property, physics layer 0, and now we get to paint our collisions. I'm not going to set all of the collisions here, just the tiles we're going to be using. So in this case, I clicked that. You can bring that up like that. Looks good. And then I think we only have to do these sides here. And I don't think we're using any other tiles here. Now in RPG Maker, these are auto tiles. At least this one here is an auto tile. You can do auto tiles in Godot. You would make a terrain set and then paint a terrain that matches your auto tile. In this video, we're not going to bother with that. I'm going to try to keep the video short. So without auto tile, what we can do is lower this a little bit and go to tile map. And now our tiles are right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make our cliff. Again, the blue is our screen. So I can just add that here. There's a rectangle I can use to bring that all the way up, this one all the way down, and this here. And then I'll do it on the other side. Okay, so this is looking good, very similar to our RPG Maker map. The only thing is we want to add the mountain background. And there's two ways we can do that. We can make it a sprite or a texture rect. And again, the only reason I know that is because I watched tutorials. You're not born knowing what nodes are available in Godot, unfortunately. So I'm going to try a texture rect because we're going to be using sprites later. So I'll create this. I'm going to recall it mountain background. I'm going to import those mountains into our assets folder. And with mountain background selected, I can go to texture over here and literally just drag this guy over. Now you'll notice that it is on top of our tile map, and that is because it is on top of our tile map here in the hierarchy. So we just want to drag that up so that it is behind our tile. To clean this up a little bit so it looks a little nicer in our scene, I'm going to set the expand mode to ignore size and the stretch mode to tile, and then I'm just going to pull this up just so it looks nicer. And then before we move on, completely forgot, we have to save this scene. You can see up here that it says unsaved. So let's Control S to save, and we can save it directly in this main folder. I'll go ahead and keep mountain minigame as the name. And then you see it appear in our file system. Okay, now let's do the main character. We're gonna go ahead and keep Reed and put him down here. But you do want to make sure that he has no one in his starting party. And then I'm going to make an event that sets his direction upward when the game starts. So we'll go to set movement root player, turn up, and then I'm also going to turn direction fix to on. This is going to make it so that he faces upward, and when we're going left and right, he's not going to be turning left and right, he's going to stay facing upward. This trigger is an auto run, so then we have to add an erase event at the end and press OK. If we preview, the player can run back and forth without any other changes from us. In Godot, you're going to have to do this all kind of manually. Just like how the player here is kind of its own entity, we're going to make our player its own entity in here. And to do that, we're going to press this plus button over here, create an other node, and we're going to go with character body 2D. Immediately, you'll see this warning sign, and it says this node has no shape, so it cannot collide or interact with other objects. Consider adding a collision shape or a collision polygon as a child to define its shape. So we can add a picture to our character body, but we also have to make sure that it has its own collision. For the picture, I already grabbed Reed, only the part that we're using, which is him facing upward and stepping, and I literally just cropped it from the regular picture. So let's go ahead and move that to Godot. I'm going to drag him into assets. To put this guy in, we're going to add another node. This time it's going to be a sprite 2D, and under texture over here, we're just going to drag Reed over. Now you'll notice that, of course, we have 3 frames for Reed, and that's because we are using a sprite sheet. To make this look right in Godot, we're going to go over to animation here and set its horizontal frames to 3. If you use the entire Reed sprite sheet, then you'll probably want to set V frames to 4, but in this case, ours is only 3 by 1. Then I'm also going to go to frame and change 0 to 1. That is his regular standing sprite. 0 was the sprite to the left, and then 2 is the sprite to the right. We just want the guy in the middle. Next, we need the collision. So this warning sign goes away. So I'll type in collision shape 2D. And under shape, you can select any shape of collision that you want to use. Normally I do circle or rectangle or capsule. In this case, I'm just going to make a simple rectangle collision. And you can move it down and reshape it for him, and that's good. So this is going to determine how things, when they hit him. So if the boulder is coming down, once it hits this collision shape, it's game over. And one more thing we want to do is make an animation for Reed. In RPG Maker, this is done for you, but in Godot, we have to do it ourselves. So click the plus sign, and this time we are going to find animation player. Animation tree is also important, but I don't think we're going to use that for this tutorial. In any other game, you're probably going to want to use it. But in this case, just animation player. Then the window down here changes to animation. If you understand key-based animating, then this will come very easy to you. We're going to click animation, new, and type in walking. By default, it is 60 frames or 1 second, you can see over here. And to make him walk, what we want to do is go to our sprite and change the frames. So our first frame can be 1. I'm going to click this key button here, and it's going to add a keyframe for frame. So we'll click create. I'm going to zoom in so we can see a little bit more. And at 1 second, I'm going to set the frame to 0 and press the key button. And Godot will actually automatically move forward in the timeline when you are keyframing frames because it kind of knows what you're trying to do. But I'm just going to manually go to 2 and set the frame to 1. Then we're going to 3, set it to 2. And then it's going to loop from here back to 0, which is frame 1. To make it loop, we're going to click this animation looping button over here, and we're going to change the time of the entire animation to 0.4. Then we can press play and see how it looks. I think that looks fine. And then finally, we just have to save. So I'm going to rename this to Reed, Control S, and save as Reed. To put him into our scene, just like how in RPG Maker, we set the player location, all we have to do is find Reed in our file system and drag him in. And there he is. It is not tile-based, so you can put him literally anywhere you want. If we want to preview this, what we can do is go to our mountain minigame, right-click, and set as main scene. And then you can click this plus button up here or press F5, and it'll show you our game so far. Looks good. Now we can't move, and that's something we're going to have to fix in a little bit. But first, let's go back to RPG Maker. We have a rule for this game, and that is the player can only go left or right. And to do that, I'm going to make a new event here, set the trigger to parallel, so it happens all the time. And under contents, we're going to go to conditional, the last tab here, button. If down is being pressed, we are going to set the movement route of our player, and we're going to have him wait 1 frame without waiting for completion. So this is going to stop the player from moving, basically. And I don't think we need to set button up being pressed. As long as the character is not going down, that's all we need. So let's preview this. And yep, I can't go down, but I can go left and right. Even if I'm pressing upward, there's a collision or a passability setting where I can't go forward anyway. So as long as we can't go down, then we're good. I'm also going to go back to the movement route here under our direction fix. And I'm going to change the speed of our player to super fast and also change the frequency to super fast. And press OK. So now he goes a lot faster and he'll be able to avoid boulders a little bit more easily. So let's get our character moving in Godot. We want to do the same thing as RPG Maker, except backward. Instead of forbidding up and down, we are just going to only allow left and right. The first thing we want to do is set our input buttons. So we'll go to project settings, go to input map, and we're going to add a new button, basically. So add new action, type in left, and we'll press add. We'll go to this plus sign and make it a keyboard key left. We'll add another action right, add a plus button, keyboard right. These 2 buttons are pre-built into RPG Maker. Under our condition, you can see if button down is being pressed. So in this case, we just have to map them ourselves and press close. To get him moving though, we are going to need to code. To add a code, we're going to go directly into read. We have read already up here, but if you didn't, you can click this icon over here and it'll open it for you. And we're going to add a script to our actual read character up here. We're going to click this icon up here and it's just going to ask you where to save it. I'm going to go ahead and keep path. And pro tip, kind of, if you went into template, you could actually keep character body 2D basic movement. But instead of that, we're just going to start blank and click create. So the first thing you see here is extends character body 2D. This just means it's going to take all of the functions and built-in aspects of character body 2D. You don't have to worry about that. If you hold down control, you can actually click it and it will bring up the document for you, which is lovely. And then you can scroll through and see the things that are built into character body. We'll go back to read and we want to do what RPG Maker did, right? If we went into our, if down is being pressed, you can see that it is a parallel process. In Godot, the parallel processes are called physics processes. And to access the physics process, what you have to do is type func or function, which means this is a thing we're gonna do. And we're gonna do this at this point and type in physics and it should autofill for you and then just press enter and you're good. We're gonna type pass, so nothing happens. Physics process is equivalent to parallel in RPG Maker. Likewise, function ready, pass, this is the equivalent to auto run. So if I deleted pass and did print ready, normally people write hello world there, and then I open F5, you can see ready down there because that just fires off on ready right when the scene appears. Similarly, if I did physics process and I did print parallel and open this up, every frame parallel is spamming. So this happens every frame just like parallel and ready happens that first frame. Okay, what are we gonna do under physics? We want to see if the player is clicking any of those inputs that we just put into the settings and then move that character. To move the character, if we go to our body 2D document, there's a lot of properties and methods here. We're going to be using velocity, which is going to determine the direction when we use move and slide or something like that. So first we want to set read's initial sort of reset position, which is neither left nor right. It is 0. So to do that, we're going to make a variable direction and say that's equal to vector2, 0. Now, what the heck is vector2? Vector2, in my mind, is x and y, or left and right. You have to say vector2 because Godot also does 3D stuff, in which case you would need to do vector3. And that expects 3 numbers, including the z-axis. But for 2D, we just want vector2, which expects 2 numbers, x and y. You can add 0 at the end here. It is the same as saying 0, 0. We'll just set it to this. So that is how read is facing right now. He's not facing any direction, so nothing is really changing. To make him change, we have to track when the user is pressing down a button. And just like in RPG Maker, we're going to use a conditional for that. So we're going to say if input is action pressed, and then it kind of autofills what is available. We're going to select left and then say which direction is left. In this case, direction dot x is -1. So remember how direction is 2 numbers, your x and your y? We are setting directions x, which is this number right here, to -1, and -1 is to the left. So if we look at the grid here, this is 0, 0, and on the left is -1, and on the right is 1. So left is going to be -1, and so read is going to be going left. Else, if input is action pressed right, then direction.x is 1. Likewise, we're going right, it's +1. Okay, so now we know which direction he's going, left or right. So now we have to move him left or right. And to do that, we're going to be using some built-in functions, the move and slide and the velocity from Character Body 2D. So this part's a little unintuitive, at least to me, because we're not setting our own variables. We're using what's built in. So you'd have to like read Character Body 2D to understand that. Or, pro tip, you follow a tutorial and they tell you all this stuff. So first we got to do velocity.x. That is how they are moving is direction x, which is either -1 or 1 or 0, and then times speed. And we don't have a speed, we have to add a speed. How fast is our character? We're going to go all the way to the top here and make speed a variable. So we're going to type var speed equals, let's say 250. And this is a number you can play with. If you're not even sure if it should be in the single digits or the triple digits, you can play around with it, experiment, and figure things out. Then we have to set the velocity y, which is just going to be 0 because we are not going up or down. And then we use the built-in function move and slide. Now we can preview this and he should move. Success. And up and down doesn't work because we did not put that in the code. So it's just left and right. Now he is going a little slow. So let's set this to 350. That's a little faster. Sure, that's fine. Okay, so far we've got the same kind of game in Godot and in RPG Maker. Now we will add the boulders that fall from the sky, and if they land on reed, it's game over. How we're going to do this in RPG Maker is much easier with plugins or even just some basic JavaScript, but we can make it work without any plugins. It's just a few extra steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move our entire map down 2 tiles because we're going to want the top tiles to be where we hide our boulders when they're at the top of the screen. So to do that, I'm going to edit our game, add 2 to the height, and then we're going to go to Shift and go down 2. So now we have room up here to add our events, and they won't actually be seen on the screen because of our resolution. So let's make this boulder. I'll put him right over here. Right-click New. We're going to find an image of a boulder. I believe it's under Other. Yes, Other 1. Let's pick this one. I'm going to put stepping on for this boulder. And this boulder's only job really is to injure the player and trigger game over. So the trigger is going to be event touch. And under contents, all we're going to do is set game over. I'm going to go ahead and name this to boulder 1 so it's a little easier to find later, and press OK. Oh, and also we change the speed to super fast and the frequency to super high, and then press OK. It doesn't move yet, but that's all we're going to do right now. We're going to go ahead and make a boulder in Godot. So again, we're going to make a new scene just for our boulder. But this boulder is not going to be a character 2D. This boulder is just going to be a regular area 2D. Area 2D is a region of space that detects other collision objects when entering or exiting it. So this boulder as an area 2D is going to recognize when it collides with reed or reed's collision shape. So area also needs a collision, and we're also going to give it a sprite, of course. And just like before, I've literally just cropped out the boulder, only the 3 frames that we need. So I'm going to drag that boulder into Assets, add a sprite to my Area 2D, drag in that boulder, go to Animation and set the H frames to 3 and the regular default frame to 1. We're going to go ahead and add a collision. So another collision shape 2D. Let's go ahead and make it a circle this time and make it the size of our boulder. It can be a little smaller, depends on how hard or easy you want this game to be. And then finally, we are going to add an animation player, new animation, I'll call it falling. Go to the sprite and keyframe, frame 1, create, go to frame 1, frame 0, go to frame 2, frame 1, go to frame 3, and frame 2, turn on loop, and set this to 4 seconds. Then we can press play and see it go. And for this animation, I'm going to click this button here that says autoplay on load. And that means it's going to automatically animate this boulder without any input from us. And that's okay because this boulder is never going to be not rolling. And then we can save this scene as boulder. And that reminds me that we actually have to add the animation to reed. Totally forgot about that. To do that, the first thing we have to do is make a reference to this animation player so that Godot knows what animation player we are accessing or trying to access. So to do that, we have to type @onReady, which means it's going to get this node ready for us to use. Otherwise, it's not going to be loaded in time for us to use it. OnReady var animation player is the name that we're going to use. And then all you have to do is drag this animation player into that variable. Then there are a few ways we can trigger this animation. Animation tree is a big one. But for this, we're going to go really simple and just say if direction is 0, which means we're not moving, then we are going to set animation player to play reset. Now what's reset? I didn't go over that. So if we're in our animation player here, we've got walking, but it also automatically created this reset animation for us. It's not really an animation. It just keeps our default frame. So we can play reset, which is just the regular standing frame, or animation player dot play walking. And that should be all we have to do. Let's test this out. Oh, duh. I have to say vector 2, 0, 0. There. And now he's actually animating when we're moving back and forth. Excellent. So then back to our boulder. I also want to rename this to boulder before I forget to do that. Okay. So now we can go back to our main scene. We can find boulder in our file system, drag it in, and now it kind of looks just like our RPG Maker scene, except just like in RPG Maker, this boulder technically does not move yet. So let's get that moving in RPG Maker first. So we want the boulder to go all the way down, and if there are multiple boulders, we want them to go down one at a time in a random order. So I'm going to copy over this boulder 2 more times and rename them to boulder 2 and boulder 3. And you can have as many boulders as you want. For this tutorial, just 3 is fine. And we're going to make a new event. And I'm going to call this event Boulder Picker. What this event is going to do is it's going to pick a random number between 1 and 3 and turn on a switch for each of these boulders so it knows that it can start falling. So let's go to control of variable. I already have these filled in, so we're going to go to random boulder and set it to random 1 to 3. Then we go to a conditional. If random boulder is 1, then we want to flip this switch, control switch. Again, I have these filled in already. Boulder 1 is on. Then if random boulder is 2, then we want boulder 2 to be on. And if it's boulder 3, then we want boulder 3 to be on. Then we are going to wait, let's just say 60 frames, that's fine. So every 60 frames, this is going to repeat if we turn parallel on the trigger. So it might pick boulder 2 and then boulder 1 and then boulder 2 again and so on. So we'll press OK. We don't want to put the movement root in our actual boulder because with event touch, it just gets kind of messy. We're going to make a new event that is basically the controller for the boulder's movement. So this event is going to be parallel. We're going to turn this event on when boulder 1 is on. Otherwise, it's not going to exist. And then we are going to set movement root for boulder 1, and it's going to move down. I think it's 13 tiles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We're going to wait and go ahead and skip if we cannot move, just in case I messed up here. Press OK. After it's moved all the way to the bottom, we are going to go to set event location, boulder 1, back to its original location. Press OK. And so what this is going to do, it's going to go all the way down and then immediately go all the way back up so it can start the process over again. And to do that, we're going to have to turn off the boulder 1 switch for it to eventually be turned back on, maybe with the boulder picker. And press OK. So now I'm going to copy this over to the other boulder. We have to change boulder 1 to boulder 2. Have to change the switch to boulder 2, the event location to boulder 2's location, and then change that to boulder 2, and also change this to boulder 2. If you're gonna make a mistake in this section, it's because you forgot to change one of these switches or events when you paste this over. So I'm gonna paste this over again and do the same thing with boulder 3. Okay, let's test this. And you know what I think I did wrong? This is not passable. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go to our tile sets outside and find a transparent one, this one, and turn it to passable. And then go to our tile set, grab the transparent tile, and make all of this like passable. Then that should have fixed it. Yep, here we go. And if I get hit, then it's game over. So let's get this boulder falling in Godot. Just like with Read, we do need to add a script. So let's go to our boulder scene, make a new script. We'll go ahead and call it boulder. That's fine. And we know that every frame we want this boulder to be going down. So I'm gonna go function, physics process. And area 2D is not a character body 2D, so it does not have move and slide. Instead, we're going to be manually moving its position down. This one's a little bit more intuitive. You can actually just go to Boulder, and under the inspector for Boulder, there's transform, and you can edit any of this in the inspector. So if I said position Y is actually 100, then it'll do that. But you can also set these dynamically through code. So what we're going to do is change its Y position every frame so that it looks like it's falling. All we have to do is type position, because this is a built-in variable, because it's literally right here. Anyway, position.y, we only want to change the Y position, and we're going to be adding to it every frame. That's why we're in the physics process. The fall speed you want to use multiplied by delta. And delta is this variable that tracks the elapsed time between frames. And it's just something that you find yourself using as good practice, I guess. I don't know. We haven't defined fall speed, so what we can do is set var fall speed equals, let's say 200 for now. So if we preview this, yeah, it's falling. Let's go ahead and make it a little faster. Let's say 300. That's fine. Let's make it 350. It doesn't matter. Okay, it's working. The problem is, if we let this keep going, this boulder is going to exist forever. You just can't see it. It's all the way down there, but it's still in the scene. If we actually go to remote view, we can see that this boulder still exists. So we have to kill the boulder, we have to get rid of it. And to do that, there's a few ways. We're just gonna go with a very simple way and say if position.y is greater than whatever our height resolution was, which is what, 624? So we'll just say like 630. So if position y is greater than 630, we want to queue free. And queue free is just the thing that you've memorized and you use it all the time when you want to destroy something, and you want to destroy a lot of things to save performance and things like that. So don't be intimidated by, it's just a thing. So it's just a thing. Anyway, we'll preview that and we're good. It's gone. Is it gone from remote? Yes. So it's not in our scene anymore. We're not going to have infinite boulders. Okay, but does this boulder kill read? I don't think it does. So let's put it directly over read. See what it does. Nope, it just goes right through read because it has no reason to care that it hit the collision. Let's give it a reason to care. We'll go to our boulder script. And now we're going to learn about signals. Under our boulder, we can go to node, and we have a few signals under area 2D. We've got area entered, exited, shape exited. What we want to do is go to body entered and connect that to our boulder script. So now we've got on body entered, and what's going to happen when a body is entered? We're going to print game over. So let's test that. Yep, so once it's collided with read, we've got game over. And it printed twice because technically the collision was on read's collision for at least 2 frames. To make an actual game over scene, we can make a new scene. We can add a color rect to it, fill this. Actually, you can actually just go here and click this. And we're going to change the color to black. And then we can add a label that says game over. Sorry, this isn't really part of the tutorial. This is something just really quickly made. Whoops. We can go to scale and make it super big, game over, and then that's it. So I'm going to call this game over, and then I'm going to save it as game over. We're going to go to Boulder script again, and we can print game over, or we could just go to a new scene, which is the game over scene. And to do that, the code is just, again, something that you're going to memorize, and that's get tree, which is getting the scene that we're in. The tree is all of the children and stuff in that scene. And then we're going to say change scene to file, and it autofills some of the files for you, but you could also just drag in game over. So let's test that. Oh, game over. It works. Great. The last thing we're going to do is make it so that the boulders fall in a random column. If they're just falling in the same column every time, it's not a very fun minigame, is it? So let's make them fall in a random column. In RPG Maker, it's pretty simple. We can go to our Boulder 1 controller, and above set move route, what we can do is set event location again, but this time with variables. So we want a random column, which is the x-axis. So under X, I already have a random column variable. That'll press OK. And then Y, we always just want it to be 1. Up here, this first one is 0, and then it's 1. And the Y position is not going to change from 1. But you still need it to be a variable. So I just have this variable Y position 1. And then press OK. And now we have to set these variables. So for random column, we are going to control variable, random column. Between what two numbers? Let's take a look. We want it between this tile and this tile. This is 2 and this is 14. So we'll go to random 2 to 14. Whoops. And for the Y position variable, I'm just going to go find our auto run at the beginning of the game and set that variable to 1. And we don't have to change it again. So now whenever Boulder 1 is turned on, it's going to pick a random column between 2 and 14 and then spawn that boulder at that location, move down, then go back up and turn the switch off until the switch is turned back on again. But we do need to change this event to Boulder 1. We don't want to move the controller, we just want to move Boulder 1. So I will copy these two, move it here, change this to Boulder 2, and then paste this here, Boulder 3. And actually, this control variable probably doesn't need to be in all three of these. It can just be in our picker here, but what's done is done. So let's preview. And you can see that they are now spawning totally randomly. And that's it for our minigame in RPG Maker. Again, you can make it much harder by adding a lot more boulders, by changing the weight frames. Maybe you want it every frame. Let's see what that looks like. Let's see what that looks like, just for fun. Yep, so they're falling more often. If you had more boulders, then there would be less space. Okay, now let's do that in Godot. Our boulder scene is actually fine. We don't have to change boulder. But on our main scene, we're going to be spawning these boulders dynamically through code. So we do not need this boulder here anymore. I'm going to delete it. To get these boulders to spawn, we are going to add a script to our mountain minigame, our main scene here. I'll click the script and I can keep that name, that's fine. Now, how do we want to do this? Do we want to use physics process to spawn the boulders similar to in RPG Maker, where every 60 frames we pick a number and spawn a random boulder that way? We could do it that way, but there is a better way. Instead of saying wait 60 frames, what we can do is actually go ahead and add a timer node. And we can change the settings of the timer over here. It's already set to 1 second wait time. One shot means that after 1 second, it won't repeat itself. If you keep it off, it'll just keep firing every 1 second, which is what we want. And we also want auto start to be on. So when the scene starts, this 1 second timer will immediately begin. Now, how do we get the timer into our script so that we can spawn those boulders? Similar to our area 2D, we can go to our signals under node, and we've got a timeout function right here, and we can connect that. So whenever the timer times out, this will happen. What do we want to happen? We want to create that boulder scene, or we want to call that boulder scene. We want it to exist. So what is the boulder scene? We're gonna say var boulder scene, so variable boulder scene, preload the boulder scene here. So now we're loading that boulder scene, and now we want it to sort of exist. In Godot, it's called instantiating. So we can say var boulder, this time, boulder scene dot instantiate. I couldn't tell you exactly what these mean, but that's just how I visualize it. Make it make sense for me. Okay, so now it exists. We want to actually put this in our scene. So we are going to get tree, kind of like when we called the game over scene, grab our current scene, and then we're going to add a child boulder. So this scene, mountain minigame, we are going to add a child. So it's going to be one of these boulder. So just like how this was a child before, now we're just doing it with code. But the engine doesn't know where to put the boulder. Where do we want that boulder? We want it to be in a random X position or a random column. And then the Y position can be anywhere like above the tile map that we don't see it. So I'm going to say the X position is going to be Randy range. So it's going to pick a number between what and what. So I'm just going to say between 100 pixels and 650 pixels. So ideally it will spawn from here to here. And this is just going to pick one number between these two. So now that we've got that number, we can say boulder or boulder scene dot position. And I'd love to be able to say this is the X position and then the Y position is, I don't know, -50 so that it's above the tile map. But this has to be a vector too. And that's just how Godot reads that this is the X and Y axes. So now every second when this timer times out, it's going to grab a boulder scene. It's going to instantiate that boulder scene. It's going to set the boulder scene's position to a random number between 100 and 650. And then it's going to add that as a child to our tree. And that should be all we have to do. Let's check it out. Oh, there we go. Oh, I died. I died so quick. Okay, hold on one sec. Oh, you know what? I'm dumb. That's game over because under boulder, we just have on body entered, it's going to be a game over scene. So what we can do is go to debug visible collision shapes so we can see the area 2Ds that we've got. And so this boulder is hitting a collision. It doesn't care that it's the player collision or not. And that is why it's game over. There's a few ways we can fix this. We could put read into a group and so it can check if it's a player group. But for this tutorial, we're just gonna make it so easy. We're gonna say if body.name is read, then we can do this. So it's gonna check the body. We got the body from this guy. So on body entered, we have this as a variable that we can use. If this body's name is read, which it is, then we can game over. So let's go and see that now. Yep, so there they go. Let's get hit. Oh, game over. Okay, we can make it a little more difficult by setting the timer to, I don't know, 0.05. See how that looks. Oh yes. Oh dear. I don't think we can. I don't think we can win that one. Maybe 0.3. Much better. That's easier. You could also, if you want, you could put in some code that counts how many boulders have fallen. So you could say fallen boulders plus equals 1. And then when fallen boulders gets to like 5, then maybe you can change the timer wait time to 0.5 instead of 1 second or something like that so that it gets gradually more difficult. But for our simple game, I think this works just fine. What do you think? So I hope this video gave you some insight on how you can go from RPG Maker to Godot if you were thinking of doing that. Godot is not nearly as intimidating as I originally thought it would be. All you have to do really is just pick a tutorial, follow it. It's going to teach you all of the same stuff. They're going to show you preloads and instantiates and adding children and setting positions over and over and over again so that it becomes much easier for you to be able to regurgitate this. And even I'm still making mistakes all the time. I'm constantly Googling things, but eventually you will realize that you are completely capable of coding and making a game in any sort of engine outside of RPG Maker. That being said, I still love RPG Maker. I'm going to make all of my RPGs exclusively in RPG Maker, but on the other hand, it is very freeing to realize that you can make games that are not RPGs in Godot or in Unity or Unreal, whatever engine you want to learn. Mine just happened to be Godot. Make sure you comment below your experiences of transitioning from RPG Maker to Godot or any other engine. I'm sure it will be very inspiring for other people reading that comment. And of course, please like and subscribe for usually RPG Maker videos, but maybe I'll start some Godot stuff too. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!